Today in Dwarf Fortress, in the planets of myth, in the middle of the equator, there is a very warm peninsula, the Dunes of Stalking. This is the fortress of Pillarflaxen, a short-lived fortress populated by about 100 dwarves. For centuries, dwarven poets have told the story of what happened to Pillarflaxen. They were cursed from embark. For little did the dwarves know that the home that they'd built for themselves on the nice, spraying beach, near to the salt plains of Stalking, they'd built their home on the front doorstep of a great plains titan. It was only a matter of time before the dwarven activity would alert such a beast. As the dwarven picks strike the earth and chip away its stone, the dwarves can hear a rumble on the surface. A vile force of darkness has arrived. It appears to be dwarven slaves, enslaved by goblins and raised in captivity. These brainwashed fools would run and fight with our dwarves. It was a gruesome melee in the open plains, the salt-swept stone stained with the blood of many a dwarf. Teeth and bone scrapes the earth. There are no winners in a fight like that, but life must go on, at least, until the desert titan Dustan Starispadol Rexidium has come. A gigantic eyeless petrosaur. It has 2 sturdy horns and it moves about carelessly. Its cinnamon scales are rough and overlapping. Beware its webs. With shrill, childlike screams, the creature flies towards the fortress at rapid speeds. The dwarves do their best to get inside. Webs fall from the sky and the livestock scatters. A small child crawls towards the fortress, desperate to get back in, watching its parent die. As the petrosaur slaughters the livestock and some unlucky dwarves caught outside, the small child crawls desperately further away from the fortress. The dwarves open the door up, hoping the child could crawl back to the fortress. But the petrosaur would continue its rampage, taking out its anger on the local wildlife. The child crawled towards the drawbridge. The dwarves cheered him on from inside of the tavern. "Come on, baby, you can make it through. He's only a few days old." Just as the caravans from the mountain home return home, the dwarves returning to the mountain home were able to escape due to the creature being distracted by the Kias. But the dwarves weren't able to close the gate in time. The creature made it in, slaughtering everything it saw. As it careened down the stairwells into the fortress hold, bodies were left in its wake. Webs, livestock, dwarves, friends. To this day, dwarves around the realm still raise a goblet to those brave recruits who took on that beast that day. You couldn't even find their remains. They were so shredded into tiny little bits. Or more accurately, a fine paste. Shoutouts to that ghost, by the way. They said spooked the creature for a second, long enough for the dwarves to get a hit in. The creature then went into a rage and proceeded to rampage throughout the fortress of Pillarflaxen, up into the stairwells, killing all but a very small number of dwarves. For a stray farmer would punch it in the head, bruising the brain and causing it to collapse, never to move again. "The creature is dead," said Arya the dwarf. "I've killed it." Now this is where the stories differ. Some say it was a grand soldier who killed the creature. Some say it was the baby itself that was tossed by a dog. The dwarves all agree that there was a point where they just decided to scuttle the fort, for it was on the coast right next to the ocean. The dwarves believed that they wouldn't have time to be able to finish properly taking care of every single one of the bodies, and it would be best to simply flood it and keep it far away from thieves' hands, at which point they would pack up their belongings and make it back to the mountain home. So with that, the flooding began. The dwarves let the water from the local aquifer into the fortress. It poured gallons, tens of thousands of times over. The flooding began to soften out the scent of the miasma, but they were too late. The goblins had arrived once again, bringing more slaves than ever before. The few dwarves were trapped at the far end of the peninsula. Few can guess what happened to the remaining dwarves, whether or not they were captured and enslaved or simply slayed at the stake. The goblins were able to get their hands on some dwarven artifacts. And that, my friends, is the story of the destruction of the fortress of Pillarflaxen. It's very grim and sad, but do know that not all dark things have dark endings, for the world will live on, and many dwarves will spread the tales of Pillarflaxen and those that live there. Good night, dwarves, and we'll see you soon.